In this video, we're going to be exploring the utility clamp. And there it is. Now this has at least 4 pieces, and it looks kind of complicated, and so let's approach it as if there were no one around to help us, and we were just kids playing. Let's just take it apart and see what it's made of. So that's what we'll start with here. I'll just try to take that nut off there, and when you try, you'll notice it kind of gets stuck. You can't actually remove that. The next thing we can do is try to unscrew this sort of arm, and the arm comes off. And that means you can put different arms onto that first piece. Then you can unscrew this nut here. We'll see what that does in a second. And last but not least, we have this little nut there. And notice that when we loosen that, the arms of the clamp, or the hands of the clamp, get further apart. So those are the 4 pieces of utility clamp. And so putting it all back together, you can take that nut, screw it in, and you can adjust the hands of the clamp to fit different thickness of necks of pieces of glassware. So depending on how thick the neck is that you want to hold up and grasp with those hands, you can use the nut to tighten that. This other nut allows you to make the utility clamp shorter or longer. So if you screw that end piece on, you can see how you can have a long utility clamp. And by adjusting the nut, you can make it shorter, and adjusting it even more, you can make it shorter still, depending on how far you want to hold something away from where the nut is attaching. Now that last screw is where the utility clamp attaches to a ring stand. So you can see there that the utility clamp attaches to the ring stand, and you can use those other nuts to adjust which way it faces and how far apart the hands are. One last thing to note about these are the hands themselves. You'll notice there are these blue plastic pieces there, and this one that I've just shown you looks pretty nice, but when you look at the other one, there are these burn marks. You can see them. Now that damages the equipment, sure, but worse than that is when that plastic burns, it releases really toxic fumes into the room. So you don't ever want to burn those plastic hands. Nonetheless, they're often touching hot glassware. For example, you might have a evaporating flask that you're heating up in a heating mantle, and this utility clamp is holding on to the neck of that. And so the heat gets transferred from the piece of glassware to the utility clamp, and it melts the plastic. So to avoid that, to prevent that from happening, we have these little sleeves. These sleeves are made from a type of fiberglass that doesn't allow heat to transfer very well. You can wrap the sleeves around the hands of the utility clamp, and that prevents them from melting when they come into contact with hot pieces of glassware. And this way, no one in the room has to breathe in those toxic fumes of melted plastic.